switching gears to Microsoft buying an entire nuclear power plant to support the power load demand that is increasing for AI. I think this is a fantastic story because I think it clearly highlights one of the substantial issues with the AI movement, which is the demand for power. And yes, there is a reason that I am investing a fair percentage of my portfolio into XLE, which is the energy sector ETF.
So, I mean, I didn't really see it coming. I know people have been talking about this whole the whole uranium play, right? So uranium and said nuclear plants. I didn't really expect the sentiment around nuclear to change anytime soon. I know abroad they've been doing it because they've had some really rough issues, but I thought it would have to be some major crisis that would cause the public change. No, it turns out money was the thing that changed people's minds. That AI data centers that could potentially generate billions or trillions of dollars gets people off the sidelines in order to lobby the government in order to cause nuclear reactors to come back online. So I don't know if you remember this, but like 3 months ago, what's his name? Bill Gates had released. It was like a groundbreaking thing on a new type of power plant they were doing. But now what we saw the other day is that Microsoft is willing to. That was Bill Gates's like foundation for power plants.
Bill and
But now we're
Melinda,
seeing that, yeah. But
or
now we're seeing
whatever
that
it's called now.
right. The Microsoft is they're going to be investing was it $16 billion over the next 20 years into the into this nuclear reactor, and they were seeing all these different data centers for AI being. I think Amazon just had one recently that was set up next to a nuclear reactor, and so now forget the regular Joe Blow people like lobbying our members of parliament and congressmen in order to give us nuclear energy. The rich people are like, we need nuclear energy right freaking now. And what we've seen in the uranium stocks as a result is these huge rise. Did you see Cameco went up 8%, Uranium Energy Core went up 8%. Next, all these stocks just gapped up on this news. Let me just pull up the chart real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, so you had these assets that essentially gapped up just this from their lows, and uranium now is starting to become like the thing that we want to be paying attention to. So if I go to Cameco CCJ, look at that gap up. And so, and we've already been in this long-term trend with uranium because there's not a whole lot of uranium in the world. I mean, there's enough to satisfy our needs, but the question is who controls them.
Right.
And Russia controls a lot of it. China controls a lot. So it's sort of like, this political issues we have to deal with over there. And so there's a question of American and Canadian mining resources that are not going to get a bunch of investment because you can't do this last minute, right? If you can invest at all in nuclear energy, you got to do that 10 years ago. You got to do it now. And so we're seeing a bunch of money flood into there. So it could be that uranium stocks end up doubling, tripling over the next 5 years and become amazing plays. I'm surprised how this has flown underneath the radar. I mean, those who are paying attention, they're the uranium bugs who are just completely. I don't know if you ever listen to them. They're on FinTwit. They're all over the place. To them, uranium is better than gold. They've been talking about it for years.
Right.
But just like Bitcoin becoming what is it, legal tender in El Salvador, and it becoming more used as a currency, uranium now is becoming seen as like going to be as good or better than fossil fuels. And so it could be another 10 years, 7-10 years now of a golden age in uranium and energy within the United States and Canada, which is something we haven't seen for a while.
Interesting observations. I think, unfortunately, the XLE doesn't really have any exposure to public uranium companies or even URA as part of the 25 components that make up the sector ETF. So I'll have to give that one a look. But in general, I mean, energies. To go back to what prompted this conversation, which was, what are you doing for your inflation play, right? My interest was in any industry that specifically stands to benefit from inflation, and energies tends to be one of those industries. In large part, your energy demand does not wane even through a recession. You're still going to need nat gas. You're still going to need to power your furnace. You're still going to need power for your home. You're still going to need to charge your electric car. So, the overall demand for energy doesn't wane as much, and of course the pricing is generally pegged to the cost of inflation. So what better place to be in and then in energy stocks, because those are obviously of benefit. So XLE is definitely an interesting one for me. That was a quick play. It was a one time, all I had to do was click buy instead of had to go do a bunch of research. But you make an interesting point about the demand for uranium and overall how we're going to be able to support the power load for the AI sector, which is like slowly becoming this whole new multi-billion-dollar industry that we now need to sort of reform our thinking about, because it has demands and capex requirements that are sort of unique on its own.
And it's causing these large players to be able to get over the hurdle of, because a lot of these nuclear plants that are still around are, I think they call them stage 1 or stage 2, where they're not like cost effective. Like even if you get them online, you're paying too much. But for how much they're expecting to be able to get out of AI, they go, well, then now that price is worthwhile, and just spin them up. This is 3 Mile Island. This the power plant is in. You know, people, there's boogeyman tales and stories and old folklore about 3 Mile Island that kids tell each other, and now they're like spinning up because it's going to be worth the money. To me, it's just unbelievable. And um, the dub people talk about the, like you just said, the need for energy, that we're always getting that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Gates talked about that in an interview that he did a few months ago, about when he started up the new nuclear power plants that he's talking about. And as a side note, he was saying, oh, and by the way, we're going to need it for AI. And when really it's the AI thing, because it's, what is it, double the energy output usage of a given nation is what's needed to run the AI in that nation. It's like, I mean, forget our microwaves. This
Right.
is like, I mean, and this is to start with. They want 5 times that. They want 10 times that. And so what happens when so many nations then decide to become um, independent energy wise, and what that does for the local economy could be pretty interesting. What it does for war abroad, like what if we're not fighting for oil anymore because we figured out energy, and we did, countries are competing to advance what's happening with the nuclear power development, and then we get over the whole thing about, oh, it's not green. No, it turns out it's more green than a bunch of other things, and stable, and cheaper, and blah blah blah. I, golden age to me, like you said at the beginning, you're optimistic. This to me is squarely in the golden age category, even though it's run by oligarchs and billionaires and children.
All right, so let me give you a few thoughts to, I think, the chess move that we're trying to define here, right? We're trying to think a few steps out that help us decide on what we invest today because of the impact we think it'll have in the future. I don't think there's any question that power load demand is going to increase, and obviously the demand will be there for some time. One callback that I have, though, in like the history of me speculating on the future of industries, is the impact that the crypto industry had on NVIDIA graphics cards. And as I was thinking through the chess moves there, the very first thought was, well, NVIDIA is clearly going to benefit from all of the cryptocurrencies that rely on GPUs in order to mine for crypto, and the demand should continue to increase there. Well, sure enough, that's how it played out. But the one thing that I didn't anticipate, which would have been chess move number 2, is, oh, how about revising the way that this crypto works to rely on proof of stake instead of proof of work? So that dramatically decreased the need for those GPU cards, and then obviously that pulled back a lot of that demand. NVIDIA's stock pulled back, and then we got to see it take its most recent run during the AI game. Now, I want to think through that process again with the AI industry, but I'm pretty sure this is more of a physics question, and maybe somebody in the comments can help me out on this one. But I don't think there's any potential major optimization that's coming from the need for graphics cards in order to support LLMs in the future, other than maybe software advantages. Maybe at the software level, we could make some improvements to the way that the LLMs behave, and they require less energy over time. But as far as I can tell, the type of media demand we're requesting from AI technologies, video interpretation, video creation, audio creation, audio interpretation, the speech to speech, those mediums are so intense in terms of their compute needs that I don't think that demand wanes. But what are your thoughts, Tom? I mean, as we're trying to think through like what could cause the demand for energy to pull back, is there some major innovation from at the hardware level? Do we defy the laws of physics somehow to require less compute demand, or is there a software optimization coming?
I don't think there's anything. Energy is not like other types of technology where the what you want is to use less of it. You always want more of the energy because you get that stored potentiality to use for something else.
Sure.
I'm not anticipating a pullback in the need of it. I think what we get instead is the exact opposite. That more gets produced. That the productivity and development makes it so that we have so much more energy that we're looking for ways to use it as opposed to the other way around. And so even though I think that the systems you're talking about that would be using these energies would become more efficient and need less energy, I don't think that then results in now there's a pullback in the demand for energy. We'll just find new ways of using it. In the same way as money,
Sure.
we don't go, well, now we need less money because we're more productive. You actually need more money the more productive you become.
Well, I guess the problem I have in my mind is that it seems like there's some potential to overproduce capacity for producing energy. And since we can't really reliably store energy in any meaningful way that makes it distributable to the human population that is still growing, there's going to be some kind of supply demand problem here in the future, where if we are able to improve the efficiency of AI models to the extent that they need even half the energy required today, then that demand will come back at some need to be pulled back at some point, right? So if we've overproduced capacity to support AI in the future of AI, what then happens to that industry? So that's sort of what I would be looking for. I don't think we're anywhere close to that. It's still, we're obviously on the rise of this industry, and the demand is obviously incredibly high. But eventually, I think somebody somewhere is going to be like, "Look, man, we're melting polar ice caps faster than ever before because of how much AI is out there. So we got to do something about this."
So you think energy storage then, like let's say they could solve that problem, would be like gangbusters?
I don't even think it's possible. I don't think we could store the energy that we're producing now and in the future in a reliable way to make it useful in the future. That's the problem. It's like what we're going to end up with is overcapacity. We have the potential of producing enough energy to support AI at its current scale and at its current growth rate. But if the need for that energy starts to dissipate in any meaningful way, then we've got overcapacity.
I see. It's like maple syrup here in Canada. It's like everywhere. It's like, all right, it's nothing. No one even invests in it.
Right.
All right. Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm going to look into what the next domino for that could be because there's something in me that doesn't resonate well with the idea that there's too much energy. I think there are things that we want to do that we're not doing because we don't have enough energy, but I'm guessing, and that
Right.
the oversupply then makes the energy costs come down so much that things that are on the sideline now becomes available. That's how
It's
I would.
possible. It's possible. I think it's just a trade off, right? Where does that energy go? And I just don't think that the human population and the demand for energy on a at a consumer level can even hold a torch to the demand for energy from AI right now. Like that's the reason that Microsoft is buying an entire power plant on nuclear and why they're investing so much in this, because the future demand for AI technology is significantly higher than residential, commercial, or even just human demand for power. So that need for power, even if our population increases another, let's call it 4 million, 40 million people, or 50 million people over the next year, that's still not enough demand to match the demand for AI. That's my thought
Right.
process, but maybe I'm off on this. I'd love other people's opinions on this.
It's fascinating.